Quiet skunk changed name. Okay, 13th age. I feel like there's a story there. Not skunk. Wow, that's an entrance. You like that? Hello, good to see you. Hope you're all well. I've been itching to get on today, because as most of you know, other than my voice being as it is, and didn't see it before, and yes, I like. How are you? I'm good. And we're starting a new book today. Beasts of the Plains. Now, I've been talking with the author on and off. Yeah, new book hype indeed. I'm very excited. I don't know if she will be in the chat or not. And I only say that, I think she has every intention of being here, but I believe she lives in France, and so there's a time difference. Not sure, what she's up to. It's like 8 or 9 o'clock at night for her, so I don't know. Hopefully she'll appear at some point, but if not, that's okay. I do have, since this is being recorded, I do have permission from the author to read this book by N.D. Goodman, and it is actually book 1 of 2. So yeah, I'm gonna post the link now just to make sure it works, because I added it. Okay, good, there it is. So yes, as we're reading through this, if you decide that you want to get your own copy, or you want to read along, or you just want to see what else is out there by this author, you'll be able to do that. I'm still exhausted. I casted 10 hours of SC2 yesterday. StarCraft 2 for 10 hours. Queen. What were you thinking? That's like non-stop commentary, unless you have to take a drink or go use the bathroom. But I'm glad you did it. Good job. You got it out of you. So, hopefully it was worth it. And yes, Hicks, one I have not read. I have not read this either. In fact, all of the books that I have over here, which, okay. New thing I added to the stream. And it's going to seem a little weird, and I need your feedback, okay? Before we get going, I need your feedback. And I realized it's covering up the chat, so that's a problem. So I'll have to go up here, covering up Stream Raiders instead. Kind of a weird camera angle. I did get breaks, but I had no co-commentator, so I was talking alone the whole time. Oh man, that's no fun. What happened to your co-host? I don't remember his name, I apologize, but I know you had a guy there with you last time, chatting it up. So, I had this other camera, and I don't put, I'm reading a physical copy, so I don't have the Kindle version on screen, like, a lot of other readers do. So I thought, well, what if I at least have this other camera, and then you can at least see that I'm reading a book or something. And then you can see all my other books right here. We've got Coraline on top for this month's book club. And then all the other books down here, which I'll be getting to right after this one. So, camera angle is a bit funky. Kind of got that head tilt thing going on. But I thought I'd try it, I'm the only one that does this event. Oof. But I do it every time. So I'm happy that they always chose me. Well, that's nice. I'm glad they chose you too. If you like doing it, go for it. If it makes you happy, do the thing. Do the thing. Oh, let's actually get Stream Raiders up and going here before we get into the read. We're on a brand new trick-or-treat map. Should be nice and easy. Let's see what we got. Not too much going on. Yeah, I'll just put a tank in here, and I'm gonna make this super simple. Place whatever you want. Why is it not? Okay, fine. Nah, not needed. We know what you're reading and don't care about seeing the copy. Okay, well, that's fair. Why am I so big? I just looked at my camera. What in the heck? Hold up. There we go. Jeepers, that was huge. Okay, you had no idea what I was doing. Anyway, yeah, feel free to... I cannot hear anything. Sounds like the stream has started. Uh-oh. Well, the rest of you can hear me, obviously. It has... The others can hear me. Right? Not just talking to myself and getting really lucky. Goldie is one of the other authors of the Bubonic Reorder down here, so I look forward to getting into his book when we can. Can hear me fine. Alright, so Hicks can hear me. Skunk, not Skunk, can hear me. David on the air. What's up, sir? Good to see you. How are you? We're just getting started. We haven't cracked open our brand new book, Beasts of the Plains, just yet. Call me Skunk if you want. You know, it's going to take me a minute to switch over. I'm sorry. I'm gonna do my... Do you prefer 13th? Is that what we're going for? Is that the desired version of your current name? Either way. Got it. Alright. Aranel, hi. Hello. Good to see you. Welcome in. We just started Stream Raiders, so get cracking. Get your units in. I'm still worried about Goldie. He says he can't hear me, but hopefully he'll figure it out soon. Alright. 13th is Skunk. That is correct. 13th is Skunk. So what I'm going to do first, I'm going to read the back. That way everyone gets a premise of what this book is about. So, let me start there. As the wolf pack of the forest struggles to hold on to its identity, most are simply trying to survive the harsh winter. Farrar, son of Rannan, the great hunter warrior, rebels against an oppressive and cruel pack leader. His actions may lead not only to his own death, but to the death of his entire family. South of the forest, Kubatar, the young horse prince, is dispatched by his father to inspect the movements of an army headed towards the tribe's grazing lands. Manat, the horse's army general, joins the expedition for reasons that are not yet known to Kubatar. The arrival of this foreign army to the tribe's borders is seen as a dangerous threat to the tribe's safety by both King Derubu and General Manat. Kubatar, on the other hand, sees this as a rare and precious opportunity to reinstate the ancient pact with the bison, the sworn enemy of the horse tribe. Book 1 of the Beast series. So there you have it. That is an overview of what we're going to talk about here. You mentioned the author is French. Is this originally written in English? Just curious. You know, that's a great question. If she joins us, that's a good question to ask. She's planning on it. I just don't know if if she can, because, well, she's in France, and I don't know what's going on. So yeah, I don't know if it was originally written in French and then translated, or if it was just straight up written in English. No idea. But with that being said, we're looking about 328 pages. Oh, look. There's a picture. Let me show you the picture. Yeah, I think that's what he meant. Is it a translation? I don't know. I do not know. But what I do know is it's time to read. So settle in, relax, get comfy, grab your drink if you need one, get a snack if you need that too, and let's begin as I crack open the page and yawn, apparently. It's that nap time already. I have not read ahead. I've barely even opened the book. So this is my first experience with it too. So here we go. Beast of the Plains, Kubitar. Kubitar heard that the boars were on the move only yesterday. His father, Darubu, king of the horse tribe, had sent him to investigate their movements. Kubitar watched the long column of boars cross over the hill as the sun was rising behind them. They were marching in a defensive formation. Their behavior suggested that they were ready to defend themselves at any given moment against a threat that could potentially appear from any direction. The long column was marching 10 boars abreast, with little space between them. The sows marched on both ends of the column, with the piglets in the center. 20 squads of 10 boar warriors per squad surrounded the long and winding column. Each squad was made up of 2 rows of 5 boar warriors marching beside one another. There was an additional force of 30 boar warriors in a wedge formation at the head of the column, acting as the vanguard. Kubitar was concerned by the fact that the boar warriors looked from side to side nervously, as if they would charge at the slightest movement of any animal that wasn't a boar. He suspected that they had been attacked by predators recently, possibly even constantly since leaving their grazing lands, considering the way they constantly anticipated an attack coming from anywhere. New book smells the best, crack it? Yeah. The boars saw Kubitar and Menat standing on the hills across from them, at least 1,000 strides away from the vanguard. Kubitar, who was a tall and muscular black stallion, stood out more than Menat did, who was tall and thin with light gray skin. A boar warrior was dispatched from the vanguard to the back of the column. Kubitar figured that the messenger was sent to relay the message of their appearance to the squad of warriors along the column and to those in the rear. He had a total of 9 stallions with him, including Menat. He kept the rest of them behind him and out of sight, so that anyone who saw him and Menat would think that they were out here all by themselves for 2 reasons. The first and foremost was to make the boars think that they were a threat. The second reason was to keep the elements of surprise in case they were attacked by a hunting party of lions or wolves that were tracking the boars, and might decide that 2 horses standing all alone on the open plains were a better choice of prey than the boars were. The long column of boars came to a halt. The sows and the piglets laid on the grass, while the squads of boar warriors took up a defensive formation, stretching out in a long line facing outwards. All along the column, the sows were trying to comfort the terrified piglets. They all looked so tired and worn out. Kubitar guessed it was because they had marched through the night. Kubitar would have done the same if he was Rubu, the boars' clan chieftain. Such a large number of animals were marching together made a lot of noise, but they were less visible at night. Most predators would stay away from anything that made so much noise at night. Furthermore, a herd that marched during the day was much more noticeable to predator scouts. All they had to do was follow the clouds of dust that such a large number of animals on the move would create. Considering the pace that they were marching at, Kupitar guessed that they could probably only cover 3,000 or 4,000 strides in one march, which made it best to move at night, when predators would find it difficult to track you, even if it made you move slower. Predators would also be cautious of attacking you at night. Only a fool would attack you while you were being completely unaware of what he was charging into. Marching at night provided the benefit of being able to make camp in broad daylight. Scouts positioned strategically would be able to spot a hunting party from a distance that would enable the defending warriors to set up a screen of defense to protect the herd while sending out a small force of warriors to attack the predators. In addition, this part of the plains would allow the Boer clan to find shelter in the valleys between the rolling hills that would conceal them from predators that were on their trail. Even with this strategy, predator hunting parties will eventually find them. There was no way of concealing the tracks of so many animals moving in through the plains. But at least this way, the Boers had more control over when the predators could potentially attack them. Oops was on mute. Yep, I wondered. That's alright. I'm glad you're with us now. So far, Kupitar was very impressed with Rubu's decision-making as a chieftain. Kupitar did not see a Boer that fit Rubu's description in the vanguard, which probably meant that he was leading the force that was protecting the rear, which is what Kupitar would have done. The main threat of a surprise attack was from the northwest, not from the southeast, at least not yet. Kupitar intended to do everything he can to keep it that way. He hoped that his father and the rest of the tribe would see things in the same way he did. Kupitar was always surprised by just how easily some horses found hatred towards the bison, the boars, and the deer. Or why so many horses were still feeling that the next war with the bison over grazing lands, ponds, or waterholes was just a matter of time. Some horses were even looking forward to it, which Kupitar could never understand. After all, every few years there was another war between the horses and the bison. Every time for some other stupid reason, at least in Kupitar's eyes. Kupitar still couldn't wrap his head around why any prey animal would fight another prey animal when the real enemy for all the prey animals were the predators. Bison never hunted horses, and neither did the boar or the deer. The only other animals that did were the lions and the wolves. Ever since Kupitar's father became king of the horse tribe, it was getting harder and harder for the wolves and the lions to hunt horses and bison. His father had built the horse army into such a fierce and well-organized military force that even the bison were feeling intimidated lately, increasing their border patrols and sentries. Unfortunately, even the well-trained horse army couldn't keep the lions and wolves away from hunting horses. Kupitar figured that the main reason that the boars have become the main focus for wolf and lion hunting parties was because of the growing tension between the bison and the horses, which has increased substantially ever since his father became king. When the two largest and strongest prey animals on the plains trained for war on a regular basis, constantly preparing to fight one another, it became harder for predators to hunt them, which left the boars as the obvious and easier choice of prey for the lions and the wolves. The wolves, on the other hand, had the option to either hunt the deer, who dwelled in the forest, or the boars that grazed on the open plains. The lions never hunted in the forest, which allowed the deer to worry only about the wolves, while the boars were constantly attacked by both lions and wolves. Even though the boars were short, they were not an easy prey animal to hunt. They were just easier to hunt than bison and horses. These thoughts made Kupitar wonder if any horse king would ever be able to keep the lions and the wolves away from the horse tribe's grazing lands completely. Kupitar didn't think it was possible without joining forces with the bison again, but that wasn't something that Kupitar thought would be possible anytime soon. At least not as long as his father was king, probably not even during his time as king. For now, it was nothing more than a fantasy, an illusion of a potential alliance of prey animals to fight off predators, together, as it should be. Perhaps one day, all of the prey animals would unite against the predators. Kupitar wished that one day he wouldn't sound like a naive and foolish dreamer when he talked about it to the other horses. Kupitar was never able to understand why such intense hatred was engraved so deep into some horses' hearts and minds. Why hate bison, boar, and deer which you have never met before? After all, they were all animals that could be a lion or a wolf's next kill, just like you were. Kupitar often wondered if boars, deer, or bison hated other prey animals just as easily as horses did. He hoped not, but he figured that it was most likely that the bison hated the horses just as much as the horses hated the bison. After all, they had been fighting each other for generations, even if it wasn't a constant war. The tension between both animals was always building up for the next war. What amazed Kupitar more than anything was how everyone knew that the horses and the bison used to graze alongside each other in peace a long time ago. Sadly, everyone was more focused on who betrayed the pact than they were on trying to figure out how to reinstate it for the benefit of both animals. "What do you see, Kupitar?" Menat asked, disrupting Kupitar's train of thought. Kupitar answered immediately, showing Menat that he didn't need to think about his answer before replying to the question. "They are more focused on defending themselves than they are on attacking. They are fleeing, not invading. They are marching through the night. They will probably make camp soon while trying to hide the herd in the valley during the daytime. They will probably position scouts that will lay low on the hills surrounding the valley, where the herd will be hiding as they watch for predators. They seem to be well trained. I'm willing to bet that every single one of those warriors will put down his life for the sows and the piglets if the herd is attacked. In addition, I think that each and every boar, starting with Rubu down to every last sow and the piglet, knows what to do in the event of an attack on the column. No one marches in such order and with such discipline without knowing what to do in every scenario." Menat studied him with a stern gaze, his face as hard as a rock, which was the only expression anyone had ever seen on Menat's face, both on and off the battlegrass. "How many boar warriors do you think there are?" Menat asked. Kupitar stared back at Menat as he leveled his eyes with Menat's cold and hard gaze. "I count little over 200 here. I think Rubu has 100 or more protecting the rear. The fact that we have come so close without being noticed means one of three potential scenarios. The first is that they have no scouts. The second is that they have no scouts to the south because they think they will only be attacked from the north, which would be foolish of them to assume, because whoever is hunting the boars is better off setting an ambush to the south rather than attacking from the north. The third is that their scouts are good enough that we haven't seen them." Menat turned away from Kupitar, turning his gaze towards the boars, before asking his next question. What are the difficult and what are the easier parts about attacking the boars?" Menat was looking at the boars while he asked the question. He kept his gaze towards the boars as he waited for Kupitar's answer. Kupitar knew exactly what that meant. It meant that Menat was aware of every little movement in Kupitar's stance, how steady his breathing was, how tall his posture was, and even how stern or soft his facial expression was. Kupitar had seen Menat judge stallions and colts this way hundreds of times on and off the battlegrass. The main difficulties are the way they can bring down a horse easily by aiming for a horse's legs with their sharp tusks, or with their long, strong skulls. They move faster than you would expect, which makes it harder to kick them. The easier part is that they only reach a horse's stomach, which makes it easier to kick them in the head or in the ribs, which will most likely neutralize them in battle. We can flank them faster than they can react with a defensive maneuver due to our ability to cover ground quicker than they can, but the most important part is they do not expect to be fighting horses or bison. They have never trained for defending the herd against a force that will charge in large numbers. Their defensive formation indicates that they are planning to defend themselves against a hunting party, not an army. When Kubitar finished his answer, Menat turned to him, looking him in the eyes with a cold, hard stare. "How'd you know the last part?" Menat asked. "Instinct, mostly. But the way they are separated into squads of 10 supports that assumption. An army expecting to defend itself against a large force wouldn't spread out into so many small groups like they do. It would take too long, creating too much confusion to set up a defensive formation against a large force, even if they are well trained, which they obviously are." Been up since 5 a.m., so this is welcome, thank you. Well, I'm glad. I'm glad you're enjoying it. Menat grunted loudly. "Instinct can sometimes be more important and more reliable than any visual observation or a detailed scout's report, but it can also lead to foolish decisions. It's a fine line that must be approached carefully when you are making any military decision." Menat looked at the boars again. "All right then, let's go back to report to your father." Menat turned to join the others who were still behind them, hidden from sight. Kubitar looked at the boars one last time before turning back to join the other stallions who came with them. He walked down the hill slowly to reassure the stallions with him that there was no urgency for them to leave. Kubitar realized, as he was joining them, that the arrival of the boars was an opportunity for him. If the horses protected the boars, it would help them see that the other prey animals are not that different from them after all, that they all experience feelings and emotions in the same way. Yeah, I agree. Attacking and defending and all that good stuff. They all have families that they loved and cared for, but most importantly, that they all are vulnerable to predator attacks. If the horses develop an alliance with the boars, it could potentially start to plant the roots of a future alliance with the bison. Hope started to bloom in Kubitar's heart, the hope for a new day to shine on the plains, a day where empathy and compassion would replace fear and hatred. "How many boar scum are there, Kubitar?" Leighton, a large brown stallion who was the Kubitar's second in command, asked with contempt in his voice. The way the question was asked blew the wind out of Kubitar's lifted spirits just as much as Lenton's choice of words did. Kubitar looked at the rest of the stallions with him. They were all fierce, strong, well-trained stallion warriors. Many horses even hated other horses. I skipped a line. Well-trained stallion warriors, full of hatred towards any other animal that wasn't a horse. Many horses even hated other horses in the tribe just as much as they hated the bison and the boars. Kubitar always thought that there was a connection between hatred towards other animals to hatred towards other horses from within the tribe. After all, once you allowed yourself to hate any living animal so freely and so intensely, your mind and your emotions became used to it. Once the hate was established, it was only a matter of time of who you hated next. "There's probably around 1,000 of them, maybe more," Kubitar answered, addressing all of the stallions that were there with him and with Menat. "The entire herd, or at least what's left of it. They look like they've been through a long, exhausting march through the night. Their entire column is surrounded by a squad of boar warriors who look so nervous of an attack. They look like they may charge at anything that comes near them. The wolves and the lions must have been hunting them intensely to make them come this far south, away from their home. That's a deep observation about hate. Yeah. I think kind of parallels human nature, I would say. As soon as he heard the last part, he knew it was the wrong thing to say in front of these stallions. They didn't say a word, but they didn't have to, because of their facial expressions and the look in their eyes spoke just as loud and just as clear as the words could have. After all, Kubitar was King Derubu's son, which made him the next in line to be the king, which meant that one day he would be their king. If any horse in the tribe didn't agree with Kubitar's words, they kept that fact to themselves, keeping it as far away from King Derubu and General Menat's ears as they could. This wasn't the first time that he felt that horses in the tribe were keeping their mouths shut, avoiding saying what they wanted to, simply because of who he was. Menat, who was the oldest and most seasoned warrior among them, and possibly even the whole tribe, addressed Kubitar's statement. The boars bring danger to the tribe, Kubitar. Not because of who they are, but because of who will follow them out of the grazing lands. The wolves will probably focus their attention on the deer without the boars being within their reach. The lions, on the other hand, will be forced to hunt bison or horses once the boars migrate into our lands. This puts the tribe in danger. The other stallions nodded in agreement when Menat finished speaking. Menat stepped up to Kubitar with a soft look in his eyes before he continued speaking loud enough for all of them to hear. Do not mistake me, young one. I do not wish to criticize you. I only wish to make you understand how these events affect the tribe, so that you can understand my opinion, where it comes from, and whom my opinion and my actions are meant to protect. Menat turned to the others as he said his next words in an even louder tone of voice. Hold on. Get in a quick yawn. A king must have compassion and empathy in his heart for all living creatures. If he doesn't, he will be cruel towards his own subjects. You all mistake his compassion towards other animals for foolishness. Trust me when I tell you that it is far from foolishness. His deep compassion and empathy only speak of his wisdom, of his ability to help those who need his strength and his courage for protection. Any horse who has compassion towards other prey animals has even more compassion towards other horses. You and your families will one day be very grateful for his merciful ways. Besides compassion, a king must also have courage. Kubitar has more courage than any horse in the tribe, myself included. Menat stopped speaking as he stared in turn at each and every one of the other stallions. None of them would so much dare as to argue with Menat. One by one, they all lowered their gaze. After all, he was their general. It was Menat himself who had turned them all from soft and nervous colts into fierce, confident warriors. I'm not sure who's saying this, so we'll just go with the generic voice. Many horses will follow the majority opinion because they're afraid of the opposition that they will face when they speak an unpopular opinion in front of others. Kubitar is King Derubu's son. He is making his unpopular option loud and clear, while knowing very well that the consequences for his actions are. He knows the opposition within the tribe and among his own family regarding his opinions. By being true to himself, by not giving in to peer pressure, he is making himself an outsider, an unwanted individual among most horses in the tribe, even among his own family. Who here can say the same about his own courage? His own determination to stand up for what he believes in. I guess that was Menat. The silence that followed Menat's words was as strong as a gust of wind blowing across the plains during a winter storm. Have no fear about his fighting and leadership capabilities. I have seen him train for battle. He is ready to fight as a soldier, as the company commander that he is, and he is more than ready to lead the entire army into battle as a king one day. You have my word on it. Kubitar felt embarrassed that Menat stood up for him, but he was also surprised by it. Menat was in charge of training the young colts for battle, and to lead the army to war, which meant that he was the coldest, toughest, and hardest horse in the tribe. And that was when Kubitar realized why Menat was here scouting the boars with him. The first reason that he was already aware of was to assess Kubitar's observation capabilities as a military commander and strategist as he evaluated enemy troops. The second reason, which he just realized, was for Menat to evaluate the boar warriors himself. Kubitar motioned to Menat that they should be on their way. Menat nodded in agreement. Kubitar took the lead, leading them to the west at a trot, towards the tribe's grazing lands, regardless of the fact that Menat was the senior battle commander, holding more respect and authority among the other stallions. Kubitar gradually increased his pace to a slow run. He intended to keep this pace till they reached the tribe's grazing lands. A faster pace would require slowing down to a walk or a trot every few thousand strides, which was the only reason he didn't increase the pace to a full gallop. This pace served Kubitar's mood perfectly, because none of the other stallions would try to talk at this pace, since it required that they reserve all of their breath and energy to keep up. He wasn't interested in hearing any of their opinions about the boars or how they thought the army should attack them. As the sun was making its way across the sky to the west, they arrived at the tribe's grazing lands. Kubitar gradually lowered the pace to a trot. Menat approached Kubitar. "Let's go directly to your father, Kubitar. He will want to hear our report immediately." They found his father standing on the hilltop by himself, watching the colts who were currently going through their training period on the battle grass, which was on the northwestern part of the tribe's grazing lands. His father was standing just as he always stood anywhere and everywhere he went for as long as Kubitar could remember. Head tall, back straight, eyes focused straight ahead, with a cold, angry look on his face. Kubitar, who was tall, black and muscular, physically resembled his father in every way, except for the facial expression and the look in his eyes. With Menat gone for most of the day, it was Haban, Menat's second in command, a big and tall black stallion who was in charge of the training today. From a distance, Haban looked more intimidating than he did when you stood face to face with him. He was bigger and louder than Menat, but he lacked the hard, cold stare that Menat had. Menat never needed to raise his voice, because his eyes were even more intimidating and frightening than a loud voice would ever be. Or ever could be, sorry. Haban seemed to think that he had to be loud in order to be heard. His father saw them coming, as he continued to watch the training session. When Kubitar and Menat reached him, they stood beside him watching the colts perform an exercise. Almost 70 colts were training in how to perform a maneuver of charging an enemy force. They cantered southwards in a line stretching west to east. I am losing my grip on oxygen today, obviously. Almost 70 colts were training how to perform a maneuver of charging an enemy force. They cantered southwards in a line stretching west to east towards a group of 20 foals who were standing in a line a few hundred strides from them. I found the book's Facebook page and followed. Well, thank you, Aranel. I'm sure they'll appreciate that. The foals were almost at the age when they would begin their battle training. The foals were participating as the enemy forces in this exercise. They stood still while the colts were moving toward them at a canter. At a shout from the company commander in the center of the line, the colt farthest to the west slowed his pace to a trot. The one closest to him did the same. One after the other, each and every one of the colts slowed down to a trot. I can't stop yawning today. Obviously, it's going to be nap time after this. Is the author going to join the chat? She had planned on it. Goldie. Force a hydrate, that's a good idea. Oh no! I'm so sorry. That was probably really loud. Shoot. My apologies. Just knocked my microphone right off the desk. She was planning on it, from what I've been told, but it wasn't so bad. Good. I know she's in France, so I don't know kind of what's going on with her at this time of the evening, so I'm not sure. Luckily, the microphone didn't fall too far. Whew. Let me see. Okay, we still have quite a bit before the end of this section. So let me just do a quick pause here, that way we can do our stream raiders, because I wasn't sure how far we'd get. So let's switch over to that real quick. Oh, yes. Yeah, let's do that. All right, here we go. I don't know why the music is always so quiet. I'll have to change that after this. I don't want it to be too distracting with the more relaxing vibe that we have. Man, artillery's just making waste right now. And there we go. This should be a pretty quick finish. And done. Good job. Way to go. And let's see who gets the gold. Substitute gets the gold. Good job. Well done, everybody. Just collect those real quick. Berserker costume. That's fun. Yeah, let's just keep going this way. We'll go down the middle. Go down the middle. And we'll go in the corner. There you go. Simple battle plan. Rock and roll. I know I turned the audio down a lot, but I didn't expect it to be like that low. Alright, we'll see how that does. Okay. So yeah, I was hoping the author would be here, and I will reach out to her again after today. Oh, which reminds me, I plan on reading again, not just on Sunday, but also on Thursday. For those that are in later time zones, I apologize. It will probably be too late unless you just cannot sleep at all. But I plan on starting my read on Thursday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. So we will continue with this book Thursday, instead of just waiting for Sunday to roll back around. because I've got a lot of books to read, and I wanted to stream more than once a week. So we'll still do our subscribers only read on Saturdays in Discord, but for those that want to keep following the storyline in stream, we'll be doing it on Thursday as well. So, just so you know. Okay, let me find where I was, and we shall continue. Right. One after the other, each and every one of the colts slowed down to a trot. Then the colt who slowed the first turned left, headed east. The long column turned with him while maintaining a line which was now facing east. They slowly increased their pace as they kept the line facing eastward. At another yell from the company commander in the middle of the line, the colt farthest to the south slowed his pace to a trot as he turned right, towards the foals in a wide circle. One after the other, the colts in the column slowed their pace, turning towards the hill where the foals stood. They were moving at a trot, slowing down the pace in order for the whole company to turn together. The company commander in the middle of the column yelled again, and they all increased their pace to a canter. Within 20 strides, they were in a straight line facing southwestward toward the folds. At another shout, they gradually increased their pace to a full gallop, only 300 strides from the foals. Some of the foals participating as the enemy troops looked at each other nervously, stepping from side to side. At a distance of 200 strides, the company commander yelled, "Break!" The command was repeated along the line of charging colts. The line of charging colts separated into two equally sized groups. One group turned to the left side of the hill the foals were on, while the other group turned to the right side of the hill that the foals were on. Each group kept their pace to a full gallop while maintaining an almost straight line. The foals were now huddled together in a circle, as the two lines of colts charged past them from each side. The distance between the colts performing the maneuver and the foals standing on the hill was roughly 20 strides from each other on either side. From the looks of it, Kupitar figured that the foals were new to the battlegrass. The colts were only training for a little over a week, considering the quality of their maneuver, which was very poor. Some colts did not turn together with the rest of the line. They did not increase their pace together as they should have. In addition, they slowed down to a trot to make the turn as a column. Within a few weeks, they will make the turns in a full gallop. The line will be as straight as a blade of grass throughout the entire maneuver. Kupitar knew that this was not a maneuver they would ever use if they had actually charged an enemy force on the battlefield, but it was helpful to practice the maneuver when the colts were still learning how to move and act together as a company. Seeing the colts training brought back memories of Kupitar's own experiences on the battlegrass during his training period as a young colt. He still remembered every part of every day of his own training period, which was 2 years ago. Some of the colts in his company couldn't stop staring at him, constantly whispering behind his back. Kupitar felt like an outsider throughout the early parts of his training, which was extremely disappointing for him, especially because of how eager he was to become a part of a company of horses he would one day call his brothers and feel at home with. Even Manat ignored him completely for the entire first week, which didn't make sense to Kupitar at first, since Manat was like an uncle to him. When Manat finally started paying attention to him, Kupitar had wished that he would ignore his existence again. Manat began correcting every small mistake that Kupitar made, even when Kupitar was among those who had performed better than most. Every mistake that Kupitar made cost him twice as many laps around the battlegrass as it did the other colts, sometimes even 3 times as many. After 3 weeks, Kupitar didn't make a single mistake, no matter how hard Menat tried to find them. After a whole week went without Kubitar making any mistakes, Kubitar was made company commander. He remained company commander until the end of the 3-month training period. Ever since Kubitar's father became king, he and Menat have been training the tribe's warriors into the most organized, the most effective, and the most dangerous army in the tribe's history. Every spring, all of the male colts in the tribe reported for the military training on the battlegrass, which lasted 3 months. They spent the whole 3 months on the battlegrass, not seeing any of their family members during the entire time, which for many colts was the hardest part. For Kubitar, on the other hand, it was a chance to prove himself to his father, and to everyone else in the tribe. A chance to prove that he was worthy to become king after his father. In his father's eyes, a stallion was only worth what he could do on the battlefield. After 3 months of training, the colts joined the month-long summer battle training, and every able-bodied stallion in the tribe participated in. Every company that trained together as colts remained as a company in the tribe's army for as long as they were able to fight. The camaraderie and the friendships that were made on the battlegrass as young colts lasted a lifetime. Many of the stallions in the tribe's closest friends were horses from their companies. Kubitar knew each and every one of his stallions in his company as well as he possibly could. He knew who they were closest with, who they didn't get along with their strengths and their weaknesses as warriors and as horses. These colts will not be joining us tomorrow, Menat. You were right. They aren't ready yet, his father said in a cold, flat voice. Kubitar knew exactly where they would not be joining. It meant that his father and Menat were going to attack the boars all along. Kubitar was not surprised to hear it. He knew his father was not the kind of king to take in refugees, especially not if they were other animals who couldn't defend themselves against predators. And I can't turn a page. There we go. Father, we don't need to attack them. Let me go to Rubu. I will tell him he must continue southeast, avoiding the tribe's grazing lands. His father studied his face for a few moments before he answered in a harsh and aggravated tone. 2 weeks ago, Rubu sent a messenger asking that we let them graze in our lands under our protection. I told his messenger that we will allow no such thing. I said very clearly that if any boar comes anywhere near our lands, I will personally kick him all the way back to where he came from. I know you think the right thing to do is to take the boars and protect them, but you are a young fool who does not properly remember the pact our ancestors had with the bison. You conveniently forget how they betrayed our pact, leaving us vulnerable to predators while we helped them to protect their herd, at the cost of our warriors' lives. Different beasts should not graze together. It doesn't work. It never will. If the boars are allowed to graze here, they will bring the wolves and the lions who are trailing them along with them. Horses will die for it. Look around you, Kubitar. Look at every family in the tribe. Look at every mare and every foal who are currently safe and protected. Which of them will you feed to the lions and the wolves because you have a soft heart for other animals who can't protect themselves? Kubitar kept quiet, trying to think of something to say in response, but he knew there was nothing he could say to persuade his father to change his mind. Whenever his father explained things in a calm and rational way, his mind was set. Kubitar would find an easier time drinking from a rock than he would trying to change his father's decision. But he was not just going to give up without trying. I can say the same thing, Father. How many of our troops will fall when we engage the boars? Will that number be less than the number of horses that will be killed by the lions or the wolves who are following the boars? A lot of social commentary here. His father took a quick step towards him, his eyes raging with fury. Just then, Menat stepped in between them. As requested, Darubu, we return from our scouting. We are ready to report. Most of the horses in the tribe addressed his father as my king, but Menat and his father were best friends since they were foals. They were even part of the same company since they were colts. Menat was his father's closest and oldest friend. Kubitar and his father stared at each other for a long moment, weighing each other. Kubitar was now as big and as strong as his father was, but he wasn't yet as tough or as experienced in the battle as his father. His father's eyes softened as he stepped back. It was always a demonstration of strength that made his father soften up to him. Excuse me, jeepers. Ever since Kubitar was a foal, whenever he showed sign of weakness, his father would only become more harsh with him. How would you attack them? His father asked, straight into his eyes. Kubitar breathed out slowly and heavily, accepting the fact that he didn't have a choice anymore. That he would find himself going to battle against the boars after all. If his father thought he was too weak to lead in battle, he would make his younger brother, Makar, the next king instead of him, and banish Kubitar from the tribe to protect Makar's status as king. Kubitar knew this for a fact, because his father had threatened to do it more than once. Kubitar was at least somewhat grateful for the fact that he hadn't said it where anyone else could hear him. Makar was worse than his father was in his opinions about other animals. To make matters worse, Makar thought that the strong should prey on the weak. Those two things made Kubitar never want to see Makar as king, no matter what he had to do in order to prevent it from happening. How many companies will we be taking with us? Kubitar said. It was Menat who replied immediately to his question. How many do you think we should take? Kubitar addressed his father when he answered Menat's question. I would take 8, leaving the rest behind. One of the potential reasons Rubu had so many of his warriors in the rear was because the lions and the wolves might be at their heels. With so many wolves and lions this close to the tribe's grazing lands, I wouldn't want to take too many of our troops away from protecting the tribe. Would you suggest otherwise? Menat studied him before he asked another question. What if your scouts report large numbers of wolves or lions, as we suspect they will? Will you attack the boar regardless? Kubitar was annoyed at the foolish question, but he answered quickly anyway. No, I would fall back to the tribe's grazing lands as fast as we can, assembling the entire tribe into a defensive circle around the Tree of Kings. The foals with the mares within the inner circle, with half of the army surrounding them in a defensive formation, while the other half would protect the perimeter of the tribe's grazing lands. The companies protecting the perimeter will be ordered to maintain eye contact at all times with the other half of the army, so that they can fall back to protect the tribe if they are attacked, and so that they can be reinforced in case of a hunting party attacking them. The next day I would send out 2 companies to scout the area nearest to the tribe's grazing lands, while an additional company would be maintaining eye contact with them and with the rest of the army the whole time. I would gradually increase the range every day until I know that the threat is past. When Kubitar was done, his father studied him for a while. You take cautious measures. Why? Kubitar answered him with a cold, flat voice. Because I won't let lions or wolves hunt the tribe's mares and foals if I can prevent it with extra caution. How will you attack the boars? Thank you for that lurk, Arnell. His father asked without warning. Kubitar answered without hesitation. I would separate 2 companies from the other 6 companies to protect the rear, and to act as reserves if necessary. The other 6 companies will march one behind the other, so that the boars won't be able to tell how many we really are. Once we are in position to engage with them, I would start them off from a distance at a quick trot. It's best to choose a place where they can see us from a distance, to force them to either flee or bring the army to the front and send the sows and the piglets away. I don't know how our warriors will react if they find themselves charging sows and piglets. If the boars are foolish enough to stay and fight, then the 6 companies at the front will increase their pace until they reach a distance of 1,000 strides away from the boars. When they do, I will give the signal to form 3 wedge formations, made of 2 companies each. The middle one will strike at the center, while the other 2 strike at the other 2 sides. If there are no wolves or lions in sight, then one of the 2 companies in reserve will attack the boars from whichever side they think needs the help the most. Minat studied him with thought. "What are the advantages of the wedge formation?" his father asked. "It's good for breaking up enemy lines, causing confusion among the boars' troops. In addition, it helps keep our forces grouped together, while many other formations can be broken apart easily once we engage enemy troops." Kubitar answered, and Menat interrupted them both, asking Kubitar another question. "Why not have the 2 companies that are held back as reserves attack the boars at the center?" Kubitar looked at Menat while he answered the question. "It will cause more damage if they strike from the flanks after the boars' centers have already been hit. It will also enable us to strike the boars still fighting from the side, if the first charge didn't break the boars' center completely, which I think it will. In the middle of all the confusion, the reserve company performing the flanking maneuver will probably break the boars' resistance completely if it wasn't broken already by the first wave of attack. If the boars will still be fighting, it will help the first wave to regroup by keeping less boars focused on them while they fight in the center of the battlefield." Menat and his father nodded to each other when Kubitar finished speaking. "Where do you want your company?" his father asked, and Kubitar replied immediately without hesitation. "At the front and in the center." His father nodded to him, then to Menat. "Have the army assemble at the Tree of Kings immediately. Inform me when they are all there. Find 6 of the youngest company commanders, Kubitar. Inform them that they will be coming with us tomorrow. Give them orders to make camp 2,000 strides away from the tribe's grazing lands, to the east after the assembly. Inform the other company commanders that they are ordered to stay and protect the tribe until we return, under high alert. I want the mares and the foals gathered near the Tree of Kings, with a defensive circle of warriors around them in case any wolves or lions who are chasing the boars decide to come and look for an easier kill. Go now, Kubitar. You have your orders." With his father's last words, Kubitar turned around, running off to relay his father's orders to the company commanders. And that is the first section. I'm going to take a quick stretch, and I shall be right back. Got a good stretch in, open the door, get some more airflow in here. It's getting kind of warm in the office. Hope you're doing well. Welcome back, thank you. So, the interesting thing about this book, other than the fact that it's all about animals, is that the chapter breakups are done by the perspectives of certain characters. So that first chapter was Kubitar, the next chapter is Rubu, then Darubu, then Menat, then Kubitar, so on and so forth until the end of the book. How many pages in the book? We're about to start page 32, and it goes to 334. So we're 10% in, give or take. Yeah. So I'll be curious to see how the story develops. Because obviously we've got, looks like we're going to have, and I'm just guessing here, but it looks like we're going to have perspectives from, thank you, David, different main characters. Like, you know, we're seeing things from Kubitar's perspective, kind of getting a bit of an insight into him and how he feels about things. Now it looks like we're going to get a perspective from the boar's side of things, from Rubu specifically, the chieftain. So, yeah, should be interesting. I don't know if that means we're going to go back in time a little bit and maybe understand why they were fleeing in the first place. Not sure. Let's see, 32. This one's only about 8 pages, whereas the first chapter was, what, 30 pages? Or no, 27, 25 pages. So, smaller portion, different perspective. Not sure what we're going to learn, but we're about to find out. After I yawn. Oh gosh. It's just been a day, apparently. I got my flu shot earlier today, by the way, too. Right in the arm, so now my arm's all sore. But well, that's the season. Will the stream go black and white when you reach flashbacks? There are settings for that. But I have to know I'm reading a flashback first. And I haven't read ahead, so... Unfortunately, no. But that would be kind of cool if I could just click. Black and white. Okay. So as I said, this next chapter is called Rubu. And no, I'm not going to think of like 15 different voices to cover all of the different characters, because I just can't. That would be nice, but I just can't. Can't do it. Rubu ran as fast as he could. Wait, hold on. Rubu ran as fast as he could, push his tired and aching legs to carry him up the hill. He was physically, mentally, and emotionally worn out in a way he had never felt before. When the scouts reported that the 2 stallions were spotted on this hill, he knew immediately that they were scouts sent by Darubu to report back on the boar's location and how many of them there were. When he ascended on the hilltop, he saw a group of stallions running in the distance. They were running fast. He could never catch up to them, and neither would any boar in the clan for that matter. Gosh, I am so sorry. And neither would any boar in the clan, for that matter, even if they weren't as worn out as they all were. Last night's march had been the hardest one that the clan had experienced since they left their ancestral grazing lands 5 days ago. It was not because of the pace they kept, or the distance that they have covered. It was mostly because of the fear that the distress that hovered over their mind and spirit like a dark cloud carrying a harsh winter storm. Yesterday, at dusk, the wolves and the lions attacked them at the same time, in what might have been a coordinated attack. If it was, when the clan was in grave danger, far greater than they were when they left their... If it was, then the clan was in grave danger, far greater than when they were and when they left their ancestral grazing lands. Okay, I thought I was misreading that, but I was good. If the lions and the wolves decided to join forces to use their combined strength and capabilities to hunt the boars, it would make defending a clan a lot harder than it already was. Rubu personally thought that the wolves simply used the commotion caused by the lion attack to launch an attack of their own. After all, wolves were usually smarter than lions, or maybe they had just used smarter tactics because of their smaller size compared to the lions, who were bigger and stronger. Until yesterday, Rubu had never killed a lion all by himself. Under different circumstances, he would have felt proud of himself. The sows and the piglets would have probably sang songs in praise of his fighting skills and bravery. Before last night's attack, he only killed lions as part of a squad, which only happened 3 times so far in his life. Lions were very hard to kill. Only a fool would try to kill one all by himself, unless he had no choice, which was what happened last night. Last night's attacks were unlike anything they had ever experienced. Rubu had killed wolves last night too, but wolves were a lot easier to kill. He's killed at least 10 of his own throughout his lifetime, and more than that as part of a squad. Last night, when the lions attacked from the north, Rubu ordered the reserves to defend the sows and the piglets that were positioned at the center of the column. From the roars, howls, and shrieks he heard when the lions ambushed the northern part of the column, Rubu thought that there was at least 100 lions attacking them at once. Since the attack happened during dusk, at the peak of twilight, no one was able to see for sure how many lions were actually attacking the column. He quickly rallied the reserve forces that were positioned with him in the center of the column, leading them in a charge straight into the lion hunting party. The defenders of the north of the column broke completely when dozens of lions attacked them simultaneously and ran them into an attempt to reach the main body of the column. Rubu's charge was the only thing that prevented the lions from reaching the sows and the piglets. Rubu never thought in such a fierce desperation in his entire life. Fought, not thought. He crashed into the first lion he saw, sinking his tusks into the lion's neck. Rubu's speed and momentum carried him forward as the tusks tore the lion's throat open. The lions dropped to the ground as blood gushed everywhere. Rubu aimed his tusk at the next lion's legs, tearing flesh and skin open. The lion dropped to the ground as the boar warriors behind Rubu finished him off. And that was when another lion crashed into Rubu from his right side, sinking his claws deep into his back and shoulders. Rubu fell to the ground as the lion pinned him down. 2 boars crashed into the lion's left side, throwing him off Rubu's back, which saved his life. The northern flank regrouped and joined the fight, luckily for Rubu and the reserves, who had been overwhelmed by the lions' counterattack otherwise. The lions retreated, which provided Rubu with the opportunity to reform the column's northern defensive position. Rubu wondered if the wounds in his back and shoulders would be able to heal while he kept marching, unable to rest and recover from his wounds. He knew it could mean his death, but every boar in the clan had the danger of death hovering over their heads, whether they were wounded or not. As if the lions' attack wasn't enough, the wolves used the fact of the reserve forces were focusing on the northern part of the column to attack the southern end of the column. According to most reasonable estimates, there were over 100 wolves in the attack. The defenders to the south couldn't stop the wolves from breaking through their lines and attacking the sows and piglets. The companies on the western and eastern flanks didn't come to their aid at first, thinking that if they did, they would be exposing their flanks completely. Eventually, the eastern and western flanks sent half of the warriors to fight the wolves off. Rubu would have made the same decision if he was in their position, which he told them, but it didn't make any of them feel any better about it. There were more than 200 dead warriors from last night's battle, with a little over 100 dead sows and piglets. When the lions and wolves retreated completely, it took a long time to restore order to get the clan to start moving. Finally, he managed to get the column to march southwest in proper formation. Ruber thought that the lions and wolves would wait for them to start marching again before coming back to feast on the dead boars from the attack, and he was right. The clan marched through the night in silence. Many of them were physically wounded, their hearts heavy with grief and with guilt. Almost every family lost at least one family member in the attack. There were far more wolves and lions chasing them now than there were when they deserted their ancestral grazing lands. Rubu suspected that he knew why. His overall plan was to lead the clan southwest from their grazing lands. Therefore, he took the clan northeast in broad daylight, pretending to make their way towards the eastern edge of the forest. That night, the clan marched southeast past the hills. The following night, they kept marching south along the river, hoping to avoid being seen by the wolves and the lions. From then on, he marched the clan west towards the land of the bison, herd, and the horses tribe. The clan's disappearance must have led both the wolves and the lions to form larger scouting parties to track them down. Last night, those scouting parties found them, only 2 days away from the safety that Rubu hoped to find among the horses and the bison. Rubu had heard his father speak to the old pact between the horses and the bison that was broken a long time ago. It was a pact to join their forces together to defend the horse tribe and the bison herd against the lions and the wolves' hunting parties. A pact that was made out of the mutual understanding that prey animals had a common enemy. Rubu hoped to make a new pact with the bison and the horses, only that this time it would be with boars too, and eventually even with the deer. He knew of the current enmity between the horses and the bison, but he believed that a common danger would make them join his new pact. He desperately believed it. He had to, in order to keep himself going. The future of the clan depended on it. Ever since the tension between the horses and the bison increased after the horse king Hamat was killed by a bison patrol, both the horses and the bison became more and more militant. Their armies trained more intensely, which also meant that they were able to keep the wolf and lion hunting parties away more successfully. Which was very bad for the boars, which soon became the main focus of those hunting parties. Rubu knew it was only a matter of time until the boars would be hunted down to extinction. Even though Darubu rejected his plea for help, Rubu had to make his way southwest toward the safety that the horses or the bison would hopefully provide the clan. If only he knew. When the scouts told him that they spotted stallions on this hill, he ran as fast as he could, hoping to send a message to Darubu. He wanted to beg him, again, to provide safety and protection for the clan. Rubu thought that if he told the scouts of what the clan experienced last night, it would cause Darubu to have mercy on them, to take them in. He knew that there was a small chance that Darubu would show them mercy and let the clan graze under the horses' tribe protection, but he had to try. Rubu looked back at the clan he was responsible for, the clan he hoped would survive these perilous times. Those who weren't wounded physically were wounded in other ways. None of the boars who survived these times would ever forget what they went through. Tales of the horrors of last night's dreadful attacks would be told for generations among the families of the clan. That is, if the clan would survive the days ahead and learn to sing again. Rubu turned around to watch the clan slowly cross through the valley to the east of the hills he was standing on. The size of the clan was now less than 1,000 boars in total. Poor guy, the cold-hearted horse king won't take them in. Right? Have a heart, bro. Come on, dude. When his father was a child, the size of the clan was over 3,000 boars. Throughout Rubu's life, they have decreased their numbers more and more every year. Every year, the lions and the wolves' hunting parties became more frequent and more deadly. Rubu knew that the clan's future relied on a pact between the boars and the horses, or the bison, to join forces in protecting each other from predators. Without such a pact, the lions and the wolves would eventually hunt the boars down to extinction. Without the boars, the wolves would most likely focus on the deer, while the lions would focus on the bison and the horses. Once the wolves hunt the deer into extinction, they too will eventually hunt the bison and the horses alongside the lions. The bison and the horses had to understand that this was what will eventually happen if they didn't make a pact with the boars. Well, to be honest, I can't blame the lions and the horses. Boar meat is tasty after all, but still, I can't say I've ever had boar meat, so I'll just have to take your word for it. The question is, though, Queen, would you eat a boar that could talk? Dun dun dun. Rubu saw his son Netu walking among the sows and the piglets, making jokes and playing with the piglets, desperately trying to cheer them all up. Never. Yeah, see, it changes things. The boars seem to be the good guys here. Could be. Yeah, at least that's the impression we're getting so far. The bottom of the pack, or bottom of the food chain. I would question my sanity if I talked to the boar and he talks back, but I'd never eat it. Yeah, can't blame you. Dr. Doolittle. Oh. Most of them simply ignored him. Some even found it annoying, but they all knew that he meant well. Netu always found a reason to laugh, even when others couldn't. While most of the clan saw his sense of humor as a sign of carelessness and immature behavior, Rubu knew that it was demonstrated exactly the opposite. It was a sign of strength and optimism that was more important now than it ever was before. A small piglet on his mother's back finally laughed at Netu's jokes. His mother was soon laughing along with the piglet as she carried him on her back. Netu, encouraged by his success, increased his efforts to make the piglet laugh even louder. A few of the other piglets and so started laughing and giggling too. After a few short heartbeats of laughter and lifted spirits, the sows and the piglets stopped laughing. Their dark mood and sad faces returned. It broke Rubu's heart to see a moment of laughter become so rare for all of these young and innocent piglets. Piglets should only know laughter and joy, which should last their entire lives. They shouldn't know fear and grief the way they currently did. What made it even more depressing was that it wasn't only the piglets who knew too much fear and grief lately. It was also each and every grown boar and sow in the clan. Rubu let his son Netu's persistence and optimism cheer him up. Netu finally made some boars laugh again in such dark times. He didn't give up until he finally succeeded. Now that he did, now that he had heard piglets and sows laugh regardless of their pain and suffering, he was bound to try again and again until he made the whole clan laugh again, because that was who Netu was. Rubu let himself be encouraged by Netu's cheerful enthusiasm. Right now, he needed it just as much as he needed air to breathe. Rubu has lived in a dark mood for too long. He wanted to laugh again, to find peace and safety for the clan. He wanted them to live on happily and with prosperity. For that, he needed to make the bison and the horses see that a pact of peace could be made between enemies. Only that this time, it would be made with the boars as part of it. And that is our little segment from Rubu, at least this time around. I have to say, I am sure we'll be hearing from Rubu again at some point, probably. Although, as I say that, I don't see a Rubu chapter title, so who knows? Who knows? As Rubu is the chieftain for the Boers, we have Derubu next. That is our next chapter title. And this one, let's see how long, just gauging, oh, that's a short one too. So this one is not as long either. Oh, just gotta stretch out the shoulders, too much hunching. That's the downside, I think, of reading a physical copy. I think I end up going like this too much. When I should be like this. But I'm like this. Not like this. Like this. Oh, and our Stream Raiders was done ages ago. Duh. So, I know I heard it. I didn't think about it. Alright. We have a lot of troops on the field. Here we go. Good luck. And I swear I turned up the music. I really did. Why? That's alright. There's 70 plus enemies, 30 allies. This should be a piece of cake. I'm glad my one guy is in there doing nothing but walking around. It's very helpful. What's going on down here? Treat bag, that's right. So as soon as someone gets that treat bag opened up, these guys will come out. Pieces of cake, though. Pieces of cake. Or in this case, maybe pieces of Halloween candy. And almost done. There we go. It's all over. Good job. Let's see, we got warrior scrolls and tank scrolls. 13th and David. You get the scrolls. Good job, everybody. Good job. Well done. Trying to think if we want to move on to the chest or onto the mystery question mark. I kind of like the idea of the mystery, so we'll go that way. What is this? Oh yeah, I think I remember this map. Where is my... Yeah, we like warriors on this one for sure. So if you have melee, definitely place melee. Otherwise, place whatever you want around it. Definitely need some melee. Alright. Good luck. Okay. How we doing? Everyone alright? We are on our next chapter. This is the third chapter, entitled Derubu, which, if I remember correctly, is Kubitar's father, the king. Here we go. After I yawn again. Jeepers. Man, some days. Alright. I told you that Kubitar is the one who should replace you as king when your time comes. It is not Makar, that foolish and arrogant son of yours, whom you favor so much for no good reason." Darubu gave Menet an angry look as he loudly puffed air out of his nostrils, stomping his right front hoof on the ground. And then he laughed, a long, loud, and deep laugh. It had been a while since Darubu, king of the horse tribe, had laughed like that. Being king didn't present too many opportunities or enough reasons to laugh. Being king was hard for Darubu. He never had a moment to himself. He missed the careless days of his youth, running wild and free across the plains, without so much as the slightest concern on his mind. Now, every moment of every day was full of constant issues that needed his attention. He made decisions that affected the well-being of the entire tribe quite often, but today, his decision could bring many horses to their deaths, some of them barely old enough to call themselves stallions. One way or another, whichever decision he made in the next few days will cause many horses to die, which is why he found himself thinking about Kubitar's original suggestion, which meant to take the boars under their protection. Wait, is he going to change his mind? Hold up. Something in my eye. I like Kubitar's idea to try and scare the boars off from a distance. It would be better not to fight them at all, he told Menet. Menet eyed him with a hint of suspicion in his eyes. Oh yes, please change your mind. As far as we know, at least, the boars did nothing wrong, right? So, you like what Kubitar suggested, huh? King Darubu? Menet said slowly, emphasizing every word. Darubu looked at him with a very annoyed look. Go step on a rock, you stinking old boar. As you wish, my king. Menet replied with a laugh, turning around to leave, then stopped and turned back to face Darubu. They both laughed, cherishing such a precious, rare moment of laughter and amusement between two good friends who have grown up to become very busy and important horses, who did not get to enjoy moments like this anymore. You're right, Darubu. I'm sorry for mocking you. I shouldn't have joked about it in that way, Menet said softly, smiling with friendly amusement. I know I'm right, Menet. I'm the king, Darubu said sarcastically, laughing as he said it. And you're right about Kubitar. He is a true leader who will make a good king one day, when I'm gone, Darubu said sadly as his mind trailed off in deep thought, as he looked up at the sky. Menet noticed Darubu's worried mindset. When we are both gone, my friend, there are still many years until that day arrives. Darubu looked at his old friend with sad eyes, as he sighed with a heavy heart. He was so tired and worn out. He had so much to take care of, plan for, and to worry about every single day, day after day, without an end in sight. I wouldn't mind stepping down, if I knew the tribe had a better king than me to protect them. I am worried about Kubitar's foolishness and his stupid, naive opinions about other animals. He would have us take in the boars, protect them at the cost of our stallions' lives so that their females and young ones will live longer and breed more boars at the cost of our warriors' lives, putting the lives of our warriors in danger for their safety. What bothers me the most is that Kubitar knows very well what happened to our old pact with the bison. He knows how it led to more than one war between us and the bison, to a tension where the next war with them constantly hovers in the air. How can he ever make a pact with our sworn enemies? What the old pact provided beyond any doubt is that when any tribe or herd can sacrifice their lives of others to save themselves and the lives of their own, they will. What happened with the bison proves it. Why does he want to repeat the same mistake our ancestors made? Aren't their mistakes a good enough reason for us not to try repeating it ourselves? If he only thought like Makar does regarding this subject, he would make a great king. But as long as he keeps to those foolish ideas of his, he is a danger to the tribe, which is why I am not yet certain which of my sons will be the king after me, Menat. Menat turned his head towards the battlegrass. You know why the other colts followed Makar when he was made company commander? Darubu's body tensed, but he kept silent. Menat must have noticed the tension in Darubu's body after asking the question, because he stood there waiting for Darubu to relax. Eventually, Darubu eased the tension in his muscles. Only then did Menat continue speaking. They followed him because he's your son, and for that reason only. Any other company commander who made as many foolish mistakes would have been replaced. Any company commander who treated his own company in such disrespect would be torn apart by his own company. Darubu stared at Menat with rage in his eyes. That is not true. Menat met his stare with a steady look in his eyes. And how exactly would you know? Darubu's silence that followed Menat's challenging question was loud as thunder. Darubu's eyes stared into Menat's with so much fire and rage in them that Menat took a step back. Darubu quickly stepped closer to Menat till their faces were almost touching. Darubu's eyes were full of anger, fury, and rage, but Menat continued speaking regardless. I never told you that, old friend, because I never wanted you to be disappointed. But it's still the truth. I hoped you would never have to know it. Kupitar's company will follow him into battle because they trust him, and his leadership skills with complete confidence and loyalty. He thinks for himself, but he also listens to others when they make suggestions. He's the best company commander in the tribe, at least in my opinion. He treats the stallions in his company like they are part of his own family. Did you know that he makes sure to visit each and every stallion in his company once a month? He knows their mares and their foals by name. He's probably the only company commander in our entire army that knows his soldiers' families that well. He is a true and noble king, even if he does not need to abandon his foolish ideas. Well, I guess Menat favors the other guy, so that's good. Darubu did not reply, and so Menat continued. You were too eager to fight the bison, Darubu. Kubitar wants to avoid having that same eagerness cost lives with a confrontation with the boars. Kubitar's opinions being opposite to yours makes perfect sense to me. You grew up as a son to a king who wished to avoid another war with the bison at all costs, which caused you to become a king too eager to go to war with any animal tribe or herd, just so you can show everyone on the plains how strong we are. Every son wants to go against his father's ways, which is why Kubitar's opinions contradicting yours sounds perfectly normal to me. I hope the Horse King comes to his senses. Indeed. Darubu lowered his eyes, stepping back from Menat, as he turned his face to the battlegrass. The colts were running laps around the grounds at a slower canter. Darubu remembered running those laps as a young stallion, with Menat by his side. He took a deep and long breath before he answered. You don't know what it feels like to have the weight of the entire tribe on your shoulders, Menat. I know you take your training responsibilities very seriously, trying to prepare the colts to stay alive and win battles at the same time. But it is the king's decision of whether or not we go to war. Sometimes it's the king's lack of decision that can lead them into a war they end up losing and dying in, or worse, being hunted down without being able to defend themselves, like it is with my father's days as king, or was in my father's days as king, when the horse meat was basically served to wolves and lions. I needed to get the tribe to stand tall again, to know that we can both fight and win at the same time. Menat stepped up beside him. You know, old friend, There is one argument Kubitar always presents that you were never able to properly rebuttal. Bison and boars do not hunt horses. Therefore, why do we constantly prepare to fight them? Darubu shook his head, answering him in an annoyed tone. Enough, Menat. I have only enough of these arguments with Kubitar. I don't want to have them with you two. We are going to war against the boars. That is final. You can stay here and eat a rock if you want. With those last words, Darubu walked down towards the battlegrass. He needed time to clear his mind before addressing the army. He needed to lead them into battle with a clear head. A battle that they would hopefully all return from, safe and sound. Yeah, Menat is very right, and the king does not see it. Whether he is blind, stubborn, or foolish, we don't know. Or perhaps there is some other underlying thing here that we just are not privy to as of yet. It is difficult to say. Alright. The next little section is Menat. I have to say, the story for me, up to this point, we're on page 47 now. The very, very beginning, like the first 10 pages or so that we read, I wasn't quite sure what we were getting into. But now that things are starting to intensify and we're getting a little kind of a feel of who these people, horses, are, or even Rubu for that matter, and the boars, I'm starting to enjoy it. So, I'm pleased. And I'll be, for everyone that's listening, I'm always going to be honest about what I'm reading because, it matters. As an author myself, I want to know if you enjoy the book. I want to know if you don't enjoy the book. I want you to be specific with me. Ikakoro, who is another USG member, read one of my books on his stream, and I'm not going to give anything away as far as the ending is concerned, but he didn't expect the ending, and it made him sad. And he wasn't sure how he felt about that. But that was also the intention, so it was supposed to have that kind of impact on people. So honesty is always going to be my approach to reading work for the first time. Because I know as a writer that kind of feedback is valued more than anything. So, very interesting. This feels like human problems and politics projected onto animals, and for some reason this intrigues me. Gosh, I am so sorry. Yes, I would agree with that, Queen. There's a lot of just as you said, there's a lot of human ways in this, and in some cases human error too. So, but it's kind of fun to see it from the perspective of how an animal might react or act, and what they might do to save each other. So with that, I will continue with the next section, Menat. Menat sadly watched his closest and oldest friend walk away, upset, sad, and angry. He was not happy with the way the conversation had played out. He said things that he'd hoped to never say to a friend, let alone his king. He said things about Maekar that no father should ever have to hear about his son. But as much as it hurt Menat to say those things about Maekar, and as much as it pained Darubu to hear them, it was the truth, whether either of them liked it or not. Those things had to be said, absolutely. If Maekar would ever become king, the tribe would be in real danger. Darubu was not headed and impulsive, but Maekar was a lot worse. Menat thought that Darubu was intimidated by Kubitar's intellect and his ability to think in ways that Darubu couldn't fully understand. Or actually, it's just M-E-N-A-T. Menat. I saw you put Menta. Okay. But yes, you were close. Maybe there's a silent H. There's not, but you can pretend. Kubitar possessed a mind that was capable of deep thinking. Regardless of his courage and ferocity when it was needed, he also had a soft heart, which made Darubu think he was weak. How could Darubu fail to observe the combination of strength, courage, and compassion that Kubitar possessed? Darubu focused too much on Kubitar's compassion, which he considered to be a weakness, because Kubitar's level and extent of compassion was foreign to Darubu. Darubu truly cared for the horses in the tribe, but he couldn't bring himself to care for any other animal. In addition, Kubitar never tried to pick a fight. He actually did everything he possibly could to avoid it, which Darubu saw as yet another weakness of his. So Kubitar is Secretary of State, tries to solve things politically first, before, waving a stick. Maekar, on the other hand, was eager to fight anything he could, including other horses, even ones from his own company. Menat reminded himself that he saw both of them train on the battlegrass for the whole time that they were there. Darubu hadn't. Menat saw their interaction with the other horses in their company. Darubu hadn't. Darubu simply did not have the information that Menat had, which was why he didn't see things the way Menat did. But Menat knew that it wasn't the only reason. Darubu simply had more in common with Maekar, while Kubitar was just so different than he was. It was ironic how each of them was shaped by their father's principles more than they cared to admit. Darubu was crowned king soon after his father. King Hamet was killed. He led the large scouting party to track down lions that were hunting on the tribe's western border. A bison patrol they ran into must have been doing the same thing. Both the bison and the horse scouting parties were in battle formation when they saw each other. Till this day, no one knows what caused the bison to attack them. The bison scouting party was a smaller group, but that didn't stop them from inflicting casualties, King Hamet among them. Ooh, so there's obviously hidden tension now starting to come out between the bison and the horses, and maybe we'll see more of that story unfold, which might bring it all together in the end, just as Kubitar wants. I don't know. The tribe was shaken, confused, and afraid when the king was killed. When Darubu received the word of his father's death, he assembled the army immediately. Back then, it was a very different army than it was now. It was smaller and less disciplined, which did not stop Darubu from leading them in an all-out attack, which took the bison army completely by surprise, which was the only reason it was a semi-victory. Many horses still died in that so-called victory, but only because by the time most of the bison knew what was happening, the horse army had already killed many of the bison that were able to organize themselves into battle formation to fight back. The horse army quickly retreated to the tribe's grazing lands before the bison could organize a counterattack. Since then, the tribe has constantly been training for a war with the bison, which might never come. But it would not be Menat or Darubu who would let the tribe's army become weak again, like it was before Darubu became king. Menat knew that being king was hard for Darubu. Menat did not envy his heavy burden. He looked up and scanned the tribe's grazing lands. He saw stallions running from one part of the grazing lands to another, relaying messages. Many of the tribe's horses were already assembled at the Tree of Kings. Menat wanted to give Haban instructions for the colt's training for tomorrow. He was not going to be left behind, not even if Darubu was angry with him about their argument earlier. Menat knew every company and its commanders better than anyone else did. His presence tomorrow was crucial. Oh, and that's the little ending to that. And I got a text, which I need to answer. Okay, put that there. Oh, jeepers. I need a bigger desk. Crikey. Yes, Manat is a true friend for sure. Absolutely. You know, he's upset at the way things ended, and, you know, it's not... He's trying to make sense of it all, and he's trying to help his friend see sense. But there's a battle that's about to start, and he doesn't want to, you know, put that behind him. It's almost like he's changing his mindset to be king first, friend later. You know, he's got a duty to perform, kind of a military stance in his mind, and therefore that's the plan that he's going to move forward with. I'm going to move my mic over here. I just want to see how many pages this next section is, because we're at our 2-hour mark, which is usually about how long I read for, but we also have about 7 minutes before the next Stream Raiders, which would be our last. So I just want to see... Yeah, there's no way I'm going to read all this in that short of a time. Crikey. This just goes on. Am I missing... Did I miss a page? Hold on. Hold on. Let me check something here. Let's see. Manat, Kubitar. So that one's... Oh yeah, this section's like 33 pages, so we're not gonna be able to get through that in our little time chunk. So that's gonna be a good stopping point. We got through a decent chunk. We're at page 50. So yeah, not too bad. Hope I can make it for Thursday. I hope so too, but you know what? I know it'd be a late start for you. But if you can, it's fantastic. If it's not going to happen, don't worry about it. Don't stress over it. Yes, deceptively long chapter indeed. It's very similar to the first chapter. So, and it's from Kubitar's perspective. So it probably has a lot to do with gathering the armies and then going out and being prepared for battle. So I'm sure there's a lot of structure that we need to deal with in that chapter and talk about. And so what I will do now, just turn that off for a second. I want to do a couple of shout outs. So we've got some really great folks in here that I want to name. Helps if I do the right commands. There we go. We've got Queen. She likes to play a lot of cool games. Lately, she's been playing a tower defense game, and it's a joy to sit in with her and watch and listen. And then one of my newer friends is David. Reader and musician and actor. I missed something. Moby Dick chapters were all over the place. Half a page to 20 pages. Crikey. Yeah, I don't know why I'm saying crikey. I'm not from Australia. Yeah, that would be nuts. Absolutely. And then let me take a look, see who is streaming right now, because I want to find us a nice little place to go raid, and then I will finish out the Stream Raiders battle kind of off the screen, so to speak. If you are not in my Discord yet, please check out the Discord. If you want to be part of the USG Discord that I helped found, there is that. Don't forget, Saturday the 30th, we will be finishing up our book, we will be talking about our book, Coraline, which is a fantastic little book, by the way, if you haven't read it. Thank you, Goldie. Appreciate it. I can't wait to get to your book, by the way. I know we've got a little ways to go, but I'm eager, very eager, because it's a dystopian in style, and I love that kind. What time on the 30th? It will be 6 p.m. CST. Oh, Aranel, you're back. Let me give you a shout out as well, because Aranel helped me fall asleep last night. So feel free to check her out. Last seen reading Pride and Prejudice. And alright, so I will move to my see you later screen, but it's not a bye, it's just till next time. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate all of you. So yes, Saturday the 30th at 6 p.m. For the book club discussion of Coraline. I will be in Discord on Saturday to continue reading Coraline for all those that are subbed. So hopefully you can join for that if you want to. And for now, let's see who we can go raid out to. You know, I was in Rigel's stream before, so let's go back over to her and say hello. So let me put up the raid message. And again, thank you so much for being here. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your weekend. And I will see you all next time.